Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Thursday, July 16th, 2026. Time to get things started once again for another 2-hour break in the insanity, during which we just catch you up with the previous 24 hours of insanity, or I guess 22 hours, since we did 2 of them yesterday. We're going to do it again. The usual story. Everything kind of going haywire. Today is the day. I guess now everybody's sort of standing in place, nervously, I guess, twitching or picking at fingernails or something, waiting to find out exactly how crazy does Donald Trump go in his weirdo speech tonight. Will the television stations cover it? Will they cut away? Is it the sort of thing they cut away from? No one really knows. No one knows where it's going. Todd Blanche on the Hill yesterday, allegedly to answer questions in his confirmation hearing, but he didn't do that. Nobody did, as a matter of fact. And that's how they're coaching all of their nominees, no matter who they are. But there are plenty of examples of them learning to ritually humiliate themselves on behalf of Donald Trump in ways that ordinarily, I think, mostly, going back to the founders and carrying forward, if you simply treated anyone, I guess any job interview that you might be going on, if you just treated the questioners the way Republicans are now trained to treat Congress when they answer questions at confirmation hearings, well, the answer would be you wouldn't be confirmed. That's all there is to it. And instead, we're left relying on whether or not Republican senators who have been ousted from their seats, having lost their primary elections due to Donald Trump's intervention in their race and targeting of them, and who say they're mad at Donald Trump and who say they don't want to help Donald Trump anymore, will they really stand up and do it? And so far, the indications are that they will not. So that's not great either. That'll be very frustrating. I did see somebody say, this is the frustration people have with politics. They see somebody answering questions in a confirmation hearing that should get them, bounced out of the country, much less considered for high office. And then everybody scratches their head and, the president's entitled to his nominees. And they hand over the power, and it's what it looks like. The standard play is before us, whether or not anybody finds any courage having been tossed out of their job in the last month or two. We have yet to see. At any rate, Greg Dworkin is here because it's Thursday, and although we didn't get a chance to tell him yesterday, he knows the instructions, and it is Thursday, the congressional weekend, and so he and Congress, I guess, both making their exit for the week on Thursday. That's the way you ought to do it, really. That's a life goal for me as far as I'm concerned. Greg, your fanfare is ready. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Well, I'm just fine. I'm just warning you. I might be a little salty today just because of all this crap going on here.
Oh, well, yeah, and like the literal one, the one where we have another epidemic,
Yeah, well, that too.
It is weird how that happens.
I want to start with a John Ossoff piece. This is him from C-SPAN, so you don't have to worry about copyright at all.
Aha.
And he captured it. And John Ossoff is at the hearing for Jay Clayton. A candidate for the head of Director of National Insurance.
I guess so. Might as well.
DNI.
Right. Do not invite. There was another one of those.
Yeah. So Ossoff is just asking some basic, simple questions, as many others did.
Yes,
and Jay Clayton, who's the candidate, is just getting annoyed because he knows he's not going to answer, and he refuses to answer, but he has to answer. And then there's a little bit of backstory.
Just to say words.
Let's play the Ossoff piece.
Okay. We got 2 minutes here. We'll roll it. Okay. So tell me if I need to jump forward or anything.
Who won the 2020 election?
I'm not going to do this with you.
This is a job interview.
Yeah.
We've established that you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee. Yes, you do have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee?
Yes.
Who won the 2020 election?
Like I said, I'm not going to get into that with you.
But you do have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee.
Is anything that I just said not honest or forthright?
Yes, you're not being honest or forthright.
Yes.
Who won the 2020
I think I've answered
election?
the question.
You do.
We can keep doing this.
Well, we're going to keep doing it because you're not being honest and forthright.
No, I'm not going to
committee.
engage in the theater.
It's a simple question, Mr. Clayton.
And I've answered
Who won the 2020 presidential election?
I've answered it.
No, you said words.
You're here asking for the support of senators to lead America's intelligence community. We've established that you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with this committee and with the American public, but you refuse to answer a simple matter of fact about the 2020 election. Is that right?
No, that's not right.
Then answer the question. Who won the 2020 election?
I have answered the question.
Answer it. What is your answer?
I've given you my answer.
What is your answer?
Repeat it.
You refuse to answer a basic question about who won a presidential election, but you asked to lead America's intelligence community? Isn't it humiliating to be unable to answer this question, to have to indulge the president's delusions? Everybody in this room knows the truthful answer to that question. Why can you not give it?
I think I gave you the answer.
Are you aware that Director Gabbard...
All right. It goes on from there, not in this clip, but the next clip is the one that I saw. But it is kind of astonishing, and it's funny. There's still more that I wish that he had said, and he may go on to say it, but he's been the most direct in doing the other senators know this play, and they ask the question, and then they get the words, and then they kind of think that's sufficient. Occasionally they play back and forth a little bit. It's a simple question, yes or no, or give me, is it one name or another? But yeah, Ossoff is the only one who goes back and says, well, isn't it humiliating to have to do this, to indulge the president's delusions? That is odd.
So Ossoff, that's why I call Ossoff a political animal athlete. He's just good at this. And Clayton, not so much. But the thing that's infuriating is that the other members of the committee, particularly the Republicans, know this is bullshit, and they are putting up with it. And Ossoff should be questioning them, not just Clayton.
That's true. He can't put the direct questions to them. But as right, isn't it humiliating? That's true. All it really has to be isn't it humiliating? Actually, isn't it humiliating for all of you to have to engage in this and to sit here and pretend that this guy is a real nominee to an actual job?
Right. I mean, Ossoff could and he won't because he's just not that kind of person.
You're not supposed to address your fellow senators. Right?
But at the same time, what you see here is when people say, I want a fighter, Ossoff isn't in your face yelling.
Right.
He's
true.
extremely controlled, but clearly there's anger seething under the surface. That's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
And he conveys it really, really well.
That's
one of the points I wanted to make.
Okay. Point well made,
the other
both of you.
Is that there is a speech tonight. I.J. Bailey, one of my favorite reporters, followed that clip you played.
Yeah.
With this comment on Twitter, as a matter of journalistic ethics, any network going live with Trump's speech tonight will be complicit in lies that led directly to a violent insurrection attempt. They can cover the news made in the speech without going live and provide fact-checking and provide context. Whether they will or not remains to be seen. Part of the reasons I expect to be salty today is I don't expect them to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But the point is, Jay Clayton is going to be standing next to Trump tonight after Ossoff asked him who won the election, and Clayton wouldn't say. And sure, it's relevant. It's especially relevant because you're going to be standing next to Donald Trump tonight in support of the idea that Biden didn't win. So yes, you're going to answer the question, just not for this committee. So don't lie. Don't bullshit us. And that's what Ossoff was saying. And again, very, very good at it. And that was Clayton. And he wasn't even the worst of the two people that was interviewed yesterday. Because the other one was Todd Blanche.
Yes, right. That's the one we were anticipating.
Yeah, and that was terrible too. Now, again, for context, this is from Navigator Survey. C.J. Warnke posted it this morning. Mm-hmm. Trump's disapproval has reached a new high in the battleground, with nearly 3 in 5 disapproving of his handling of the presidency. These are battleground states only, and, it's just bad. And so they're sour on the economy. And they're sour on Trump. And that's the background, Trump expecting to lose the midterms for this speech tonight. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening.
Yes.
So in that context, the person who's supposed to uphold the law is Todd Blanche. And again, I talked about the committee members that the Ossoff is surrounded with, but then I guess this is a different committee because it was happening, I guess, simultaneously.
Where Blanche would be.
This is where Todd Blanche is facing the single interesting questions were not from a Democrat in this case, although they gave some interesting questions. They were from John Cornyn.
Yeah, doing his act.
Right. So this is New York Times story. Blanche faces crucial hurdle after rocky hearing. Even a single Republican no would block Blanche's nomination, unless they decide to put it on the floor despite the committee. Mr. Blanche, typically a cautious and well-prepared congressional witness, made a significant unforced error that could fuel Democrats' criticism of him as a Trump loyalist who has continued to act as the president's personal lawyer. Because you know why? He's a Trump loyalist who has continued to act as the president's personal lawyer. That's why they think that. In a post that requires a commitment to independence in the public interest, at least in theory it used to. Senator John Kennedy, a Louisiana Republican known for his folksy asides, asked Mr. Blanche what seemed to be a softball question. Do you consider the president to be his friend?
That is a weird question, though.
Well, yes, the answer is even weirder. I'm his lawyer.
Yeah, that's actually
what?
That's actually the wrong answer. There's
instantly correcting himself to add, I was his lawyer. Now I'm the acting attorney general. But no, you said it wasn't even a Freudian slip. You just said the truth, and it's a Kinsley gaffe.
Yeah,
a Kinsley gaffe is when you accidentally tell the truth in Washington. Now, moreover, Mr. Blanche said he personally authorized the subpoenas that the Trump administration issued to New York Times journalists over reporting on the insufficient defenses of an airplane donated by Qatar that was retrofitted to serve as Air Force One. There's no anti-missile stuff, so he couldn't fly around the Middle East because he'd be vulnerable. Mr. Blanche's comments came in response to questions from Senator Peter Welch, Democrat of Vermont, who emphasized that it was, quote, extremely important to protect the right of the press to have confidential sources.
Yes.
This is Blanche's response. We are not targeting reporters. They're material witnesses, just like a reporter would be a material witness to a car crash. And then he added, the question we want to ask them is who provided them with classified national security information. In other words, I'm not going after your sources. I just want to know who tells you stuff.
Those are different words.
And in response to the whole hearing, extreme asshole Tom Tillis said, Mr. Blanche, you did a great job. What fucking planet is this a great job?
Yeah, that's true.
You're supposed to be the objective Republican who's going to give honest answers.
Right,
Cornyn at least had the decency to say, I haven't made up my mind yet.
Yeah, I mean, he knows the act and how to play it.
Chuck Grassley said, people who were criticizing Mr. Blanche in his opening statement said, calling investigations of Mr. Trump during the Biden administration an attack on the rule of law. Fuck you. You're supposed to be in a specific... I warned you.
Yes, that's true.
You are supposed to be in a specific questioning position so you could find out in an objective manner whether or not this guy is qualified. Why are you running interference for the fucking fascist, Grassley?
That's a nice question.
It's an interesting question. It's an interesting academic question. That
everyone is going to enjoy this. Don't worry.
In a law journal.
Don't worry about it. And there's no authorities that say we can't say this. Not on this podcast and on this direct live
I don't know whether or not he'll be confirmed. He absolutely shouldn't be anywhere near this position. And anybody who's in a situation who rubber stamps it deserves everything that happens to him this fall in the elections.
Yes. I don't know what to say, except that I guess we were all sort of warned that all the breathless news coverage the day after the primaries in which these guys were bounced out saying, well, now they're really going to be loose cannons.
Cornyn might be.
Yeah, maybe.
Tillis is a phony baloney.
Yes, he's already gone back. Tillis is out there giving quotes. Yeah, I'll probably vote for For both
Tillis is out there looking for a job post-Senate. That's
I guess
cool.
so. Like, is Cornyn not?
Cornyn said, look, I was the judge. It's hard for me to just say that this is okay.
All right. I mean,
do it, but I'm warning you, it's hard for me.
Yeah, right. I feel for you. Okay.
I feel for you. Right,
sure.
Exactly.
But not very much. I'm not telling you what I feel. I feel something, and guess what? You're not going to like it.
Right.
Yes, frustration all around.
Now, I don't mind if the objective people, the New York Times and others, just want to cover this as back and forth. He said, she said.
You don't.
But the editorial page is so you can say, this is fucking bullshit. That's right. What every single paper in the United States should be posting this morning.
Okay. And here, for those of you interested, you can hang on to a couple of these. Put them in
you
where
can put them at the end, and then, you can place them where you want.
Yeah.
During the during the listening.
Or if you're in a submarine.
In my memory, I just remembered I had this horn that I could do here.
Yes.
But that's bullshit. You got that one there, son.
Oh, that's true. That's already pre-done.
That's bullshit.
You got that. It's easy. And I'm sorry if you're listening on a submarine, I probably confused you. You may not be diving.
So listen, folks, listeners, if you're offended by anything I said today, I have done my job.
That's right.
Bye, Felicia!
You can just leave, I guess, if you ask me. All right, that's true. Everybody wanted to hear it, quite honestly, and they wonder.
Nobody should be.
People write and wonder why I don't do this.
Nobody should be so cynical and so Church of the Savvy that you should be, Republican. No, you should be outraged. You need to be outraged. And keep that outrage right until the November election.
Yes, and a little after, it'll be all right too.
A little after.
You might need it in
You'll
January.
need it for the impeachment.
Yes, right. You'll need it then. You never know. I don't know whether they have plans for what do they do? A January 3rd rather than a January 6th. Like, we're going to throw out all the results of the election and install Republicans. Some of whom didn't even stand for election. We just like them a lot. And we're going to swear them in. Okay.
From the New York Times, Mr. Blanche was pressed repeatedly on his views about Mr. Trump's mass clemency for his supporters who attacked the Capitol on January 6th, a presidential action that Mr. Tillis has identified as a potential justification for voting no on the nomination.
Potential? It's amazing.
Show me.
Yeah. If I do, that'll be my reasoning. But if I don't? Well,
but if I do, I won't have a job after I leave the Senate, so I'm not going to do that.
I don't know. I feel like there's probably work elsewhere, but
but it doesn't pay the same.
No, that's true.
And besides, my family will be threatened, and the other stuff.
Big deal. It'll probably happen anyway, and wherever you work, it'll happen. We'll just take this work away from you unless you do this.
Right.
Okay.
So I want to move away from that. I've made my feelings known.
Yeah. That's true.
Hey, here's something else I've made my feelings known about.
Okay.
We're going to talk a little bit about Michigan. We have that Haley Stevens up by 7 poll. Then the El-Sayed's camp we have a data for progress poll showing we're up like 72 points. But nobody's paying attention to that. I sent you a screenshot of Google.
Let's see. Oh.
After 2 polls, this is this morning, after the Stevens independent poll, not from either camp, shows Stevens ahead by 7, and then the partisan poll showing Sayed ahead by a lot. I don't remember what it was, 12, 13. I didn't even look at it. It's a partisan poll, so I didn't pay attention.
I see.
But this is a screenshot of Google this morning after both polls. Detroit Free Press, Haley Stevens leads Abdul El-Sayed in polls. Washington Post, Haley Stevens polls ahead of Abdul El-Sayed. Detroit News, Stevens gains an edge. Detroit Free Press, Stevens or El-Sayed. Latest polls show who leads. That would be Stevens, and that's her picture. Fox News, swing state poll spell trouble for the far left as Schumer-backed candidate ahead. Haley Stevens polls ahead of Abdul El-Sayed. You notice none of them are saying Sayed is ahead.
I see that.
Right.
And I guess he's
people understand that when you have a partisan poll, it doesn't have the same oomph. It doesn't have the same meaning.
Yes, you're supposed
to understand that. Or as George H.W. Bush would say, it doesn't have the big mo that a nonpartisan poll would have.
Yeah, it might if you're Donald Trump. You just say,
so what's the meaning of all of this? It's a close election. Both candidates actually are finishing fairly strongly. It's a good race.
Good for you.
McMorrow is out. It's a choice. Michigan will make that choice, and it'll be in just a few weeks. I don't want to concentrate on who's going to win. We don't know that. I want to concentrate on what the implications are, both from Maine and from Michigan, in terms of what this all means, particularly for the Democratic Party.
Okay.
And this is interesting. What? This is a point that Shady Hamid, a commentator, responding to Matt Iglesias.
Oh, dear.
With all due respect to Matt, the last few weeks have suggested to me that the center-left cares more about beating down the left than they do about beating Trump. Okay, and then he goes on to try to justify this.
Aha.
And what's so interesting to me is that as a center-left person, it seems to me that the left is far more interested in beating up on the Democratic Party than it is about beating Trump.
It does seem that way to you.
And this goes back, and again, let me just give you my center-left creds here. And I will have unpopular opinions that I still stand by because I think I'm right, starting with Ralph Nader sucks, and anybody who voted for him through the election.
All right.
Occupy made a huge mistake by not getting political, deliberately deciding not to. We had that discussion in Austin at breakfast one time, if you remember. And that Uncommitted, because they only chose to participate in protests against Harris and the Democratic Party and didn't touch the Republicans.
Yeah.
That is the more recent example with all three, that they're more interested in going after the center-left and the Democratic Party than they are about the opponents. In fact, in Uncommitted's situation, they refuse to even protest their opponents, so-called.
Yeah. Yeah, I recall this being an issue, sure.
So with all of this, the fact that you're more interested in beating up on Schumer than you are on Trump, that's not going to cut it. And there's a lot of pushback to that. And what you're going to find is that the left may have peaked, and that's part of the reason. And that the normies, including older Democrats, black women Democrats, the core of the party who vote in primaries may have had enough. It's true that if you're under 40, you don't see it that way. But as is always the case with under 40, you got to show up. In New York, they did. In Michigan, which is an older state than New York City, we'll see if they do.
Yeah.
Not clear.
Still an open question, obviously. It's always an open question. It's just that's the history of the younger voting cohort. That history may change, but you have to change it first.
Right.
In order to be credited for it.
Anyway, a fellow named James Lippin saw that Shadi Hamid comment there and said, this is remarkable and confirms that the left is under the impression that they get to say and do whatever they want to the establishment, and if they get any return fire, it's unacceptable. You guys have declared war on the center. Why wouldn't we fight back?
That's a good question.
Don't you want fighters?
True. Yeah,
isn't that what you're asking for? No. What are you complaining about? Shut up.
We want fighters. Fight. Not like that. Yeah. No, it's a good point, and it's worth noting that I assume that they are more interested in fighting with Democrats because they think it's a fight that they can win, and they're pretty sure.
Well, not just that.
Straight up
it's
against
primary season. This is when you're supposed to have fights with your fellow Democrats.
Well, that's
okay. The whole concept doesn't bother me. There's nothing wrong with you saying that your particular idea is better, and let's see if we have the votes for it. I don't have any problem with that at all. It's when you lose.
Yes, I know. I'm thinking back to what your initial issue was. Why aren't you protesting, for instance, against Republicans? Now and during the last general election cycle, why did you not do that? During the primary election cycle, you do what you do. But yeah. But also, I think that they think that they have an achievable target in fighting Democrats after they've lost their nomination fight. Right. And I think that they view the fight against. It's interesting.
But that's tactics without strategy. That's how Trump makes war in the Middle East.
It's a losing proposition, and it's a frustrating one for the rest of us too. To say, it's interesting that you're not taking up this fight. Yeah, well, you can't move these Republicans. Yeah, but I thought you wanted fighters.
What's your goal?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on anymore.
If you don't tell me what your goal is, how do I know whether or not the fight's legit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
All right.
What if your goal is really, well, I just want to take over the Democratic Party, to hell with whoever we're running against. I'd rather lose with us than win with anybody else. If that's your goal, I understand why you don't want to say that out loud.
Yeah, I don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, but I do understand.
Well, I would say it a little bit more forcefully.
I guess. All right. Well,
screw you if that's what your goal is.
Oh, well, okay. You can say that. It's all right. Yes, and if you are a shade different from that, but still lean further left than center left, it might be that we're not describing you. It's
right.
possible.
Now, if you lived in Michigan, who would you vote for?
Me? Oh,
yeah.
I don't know.
That's a tough one, right? You want to go on record?
No.
I don't know either, because I don't like either one of them particularly.
Yeah, well, I don't know either one of them particularly.
I probably wind up voting for Stevens. I probably wouldn't be incredibly disappointed if El-Sayed won. I would support either one of them against Mike Rogers.
Yeah. That's for sure.
But that's okay. That's just
answer.
that's why you put it up for a vote. I don't have any problem with that.
Okay. Well, that's good. I imagine no one else does.
But if you're going to be in the El-Sayed camp and start railing about how this, that, and everything else, and then use AIPAC as a boogeyman to justify your goal to take over the Democratic Party, I'm not having any of that.
Okay. Well,
I don't like AIPAC. I don't like Likud. I don't like Bibi Netanyahu. This is an American election, and what's that got to do with affordability?
Yeah, well, all true. And those are the usual cudgels, certainly. And I don't know what I would do with that one.
I heard somebody describe the current left in the Democratic Party as graduate school working class.
I think that may be right in many cases, but not all. Just saying. We all understand that. All right. Well, we can take a short break, be right back, and work on these breaks, getting them right.
Hi, Kagro in the Morning listeners. This is Rebecca Romans, longtime listener and longtime supporter of the show. Do you love your non-corporatized, completely independent, commercial-free Kagro in the Morning show? Do you stand out among the crowd at the office water cooler when discussing current events because of all the up-to-the-minute news you've been brought by David Waldman? Then it's time to give back a little. David relies on contributions from listeners like you and me to keep this show on the air. Patreon.com is among the easiest ways to make secure recurring monthly donations to support the show. Patreon.com/KagroX will bring you straight to his donation page, where you can sign up for any convenient tier you like. A mere $5 a month. You'll never miss it. Works out to about 25 cents a show. That means that David is making 12.5 cents an hour, which, by coincidence, is exactly what the GOP wants to lower the federal minimum wage to. Once again, David is ahead of the curve. If Patreon.com doesn't sound like your kind of thing, there's always PayPal, or even the Square Cash app. Any way you choose to donate, please choose to donate. And thank you on behalf of David and the rest of us listeners. Thank you very much.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio, and also a bunch of curse words. Just wanted to say that. Throw some out and make sure everybody knows it. I think people are enjoying it. I think I usually get feedback like this every once in a while. How come you don't do this more often? And let's see. Oh, here's we have our friend Rebecca here who chimes in with the show's off to a rollicking start with Spicy Greg, leaving me scrambling for the censoring horn. I didn't even scramble. I mean, it was like there's like 4 of them got away before and there's no doing it either. But we like to hit the button a lot. It's fun. Yeah, that's about it. But more fun is actually hearing it. I think everybody enjoys it. Jose, don't worry about it. Moving forward here. Plenty more to cover, a wide range of choices for you. Where do you think you want to go next?
I want to tell you a story about a friend.
All right.
And that friend, unfortunately, passed away and joined the ancestors yesterday. That's Denise Oliver Velez. And Dee Oliver.
Yeah.
And those of you who have been associated with Daily Kos certainly know her. You can't not know her. She's just a presence everywhere, whether it's Black Kos or Music Sundays or just commentary on everything. She was a guardian angel to so many of the younger participants, and she has and had such a storied history going back to the Black Panthers and the Young Lords in New York City.
Yeah.
And you cannot possibly, I just nagged her forever that she should really write her autobiography, and she would laugh and said, not happening. Because she had so much intersection with so many people over the years. And actually, my connection with her goes way back before Daily Kos even.
Really?
Although I didn't necessarily know it at the time. But back in the 70s.
Yeah. Should I play some 70s music? Or
late 70s.
Oh, okay. So like
New York City was kind of a mess.
Yeah.
Out of money, not really functioning. And in the Bronx, Lincoln Hospital was the city hospital that was supposed to take care of the community and really didn't. And just didn't do a good job.
Yeah.
Outreach didn't, just was underfunded. They were trying, but they couldn't do it. And so people started to take responsibility and take things into their own hands. And the Young Lords was a radical group that actually set up their own acupuncture clinic.
Oh, I don't think I realized.
In the South Bronx.
Okay.
To try to take care of the community. And the white doctor, who was the acupuncturist, became known to me when I was in medical school because he was doing this, and this was kind of radical. So some of my medical students and I made a trip to the South Bronx, to the clinic, to meet him and basically shadow him for a couple of days. And this was the clinic that Denise was helping to run.
Wow. Unbeknownst to you. Well,
unbeknownst to me. And only years later did I figure out that we were probably in the same place at the same time, because how could you not? Because she was running the clinic and we were there in the clinic for several days.
I guess you must have.
So we had a good laugh about that.
That's pretty cool.
But she was just a dear friend and, a wonderful, strong voice. And we will miss her dearly. And I just wanted to say something about that.
I'm pleased that you did. I'm not. I'm not. I was thinking about it and thinking about, we didn't start with it, and how do I segue to it? And I'm not sure how to do it. And she probably would have said, well, why don't you just do it?
Just do it.
Yeah. And okay.
That's exactly what you would have said.
Yeah. Oh, that's good advice. And so I made you do it.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't hard.
No. Okay. Yeah.
The only other thing I'll say is she was an extraordinarily private person. A lot of our conversations will stay off the record. She didn't want to do her autobiography. She didn't want a fuss made over her. But you can't not acknowledge it.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm pleased that you did, and you get me off the hook for trying to figure out how to. I don't know why I'm thinking about it so much that I, get tied up in knots about how to acknowledge. But there we have it.
Well, don't overthink it. Just say what you mean and mean what you say.
Okay. It's an interesting intersection, the story of your possibly being in the same place, same time. I
absolutely was in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, had to.
She acknowledged. She sort of semi-remembers it better than I do, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember those white kids coming in.
Right. What are you doing here?
Like, what the hell are they doing here?
You're getting in the way. Get out of here. Well, okay. Good acknowledgement even then, right? To say, all right, well, let's go. Because, certainly the medical establishment at the time would probably, the older doctors, I'm sure, were like, well, acupuncture, you can't go.
Yeah, back in the day, acupuncture was absolutely not acceptable.
Yeah, right. To hell with you. I'm going to go look. All right. I guess that's it. Yeah, well, historical moment there. See, if she had done her memoirs after all, maybe you'd be in there. But now you are. You would have been. We heard the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she's not going to tell the story, so I will.
No, she wouldn't have stopped you. You know that. Okay. Well, let's see. What other fun things have we to call out here at this point?
Well, a couple of things. There was a big vote, since we were talking about Michigan.
All right.
And part of the flashpoint in Michigan is, how do you feel about AIPAC and how do you feel about Israel?
Oh, yeah.
And I would simply point out that however you feel about these things, it is not the major issue in the minds of normie voters. Normie voters care about affordability. That is their number one issue. Cost of living.
It's not that they don't care. It's just that they would probably.
It's not that they don't care, but that's their primary issue.
But it's not. It's increasingly the case that relatively normie-ish people, they're aware of the issue and they're aware of other people's sensitivities of the issue, and they want to be, supportive of other people's sensitivities of the issue, and so it moves up the rankings that way, even if it's
it does, to the point where there was a vote
all the time.
in Congress on it. And since we do Congress,
we do.
You're a congressional expert, and I'm a
I'm
congressional dilettante and interested in this sort of stuff. So yesterday, Democrats split on a Thomas Massie effort to zero out Israel security aid.
Yes, it didn't win. It's just
and the Republicans voted en masse to defeat the amendment. I think Thomas Massie was the only Republican that voted for it.
Yes.
But the Democrats split almost evenly.
Yeah.
Which was pretty remarkable, including leadership. Catherine Clark and other people voted to support Massie. So this is from Roll Call. Roll Call's a more higher quality journal than The Hill. Is that correct?
I would say so. Yes.
So the House Wednesday shot down an amendment to a State Department spending bill that would have blocked billions in U.S. military aid to Israel, but a substantial number of Democrats voted to cut off Benjamin Netanyahu's war machine. Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me in advance.
Okay.
The chamber defeated Kentucky Republican Representative Thomas Massie's
that guy again.
Amendment 104 to 314. And those 104 votes were 103 Democrats and 1 Republican.
Massey. Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable.
Right. Remember, he's bounced out, too.
Which would have stripped out $3.3 billion proposed for an Israeli security aid account in the Chamber's 2027 National Security State Appropriations measure. Among Democrats, 103 supported the amendment, 98 opposed it. I said they were split. 10 voted present. Massey was a lone Republican. The final vote showed how many in the Democratic Party have soured on how Netanyahu has used American-made weapons in Gaza, Iran, and southern Lebanon. It also revealed new splinters in the party over U.S. aid to Israel, just as analysts predict Democrats are on track to take the House and have an outside shot at taking the Senate. Interestingly, John Fetterman said, listen, if the Democrats are all in on anti-Israel, I'm leaving the party.
Yeah.
Well, you've already left the party. That's not a surprise. In fact, most Democrats want you to, which I think is a mistake.
No?
Well, you need his vote. And, I didn't want to kick out Manchin. I didn't want to kick out Sinema. I just wanted to highlight that they were nutcases. Particularly Sinema. Manchin was pretty clearly principled. He was conservative. He was all in for West Virginia. He was very consistent. You may not like those stances, but it was pretty clear what was going on. Sinema was in it for the money and the attention. She was nuts, and her colleagues couldn't stand her. And so, not the same. Fetterman, again, different issue. The people who voted to elect him in Pennsylvania didn't vote for this.
That's true.
And that's what they're saying when they say they want him to leave the party. They don't want to give Republicans another vote. And so you got to be judicious about it.
Okay. Starting now.
Now, interesting. Jeffries said, you got to vote this thing down. House Democratic Whip Catherine Clark said, well, I'm voting for it. The status quo is not tenable.
Okay.
And that's true. And so, again, going back to Michigan and El-Sayed and some of the votes, Claire Valdez and others in New York City, you can be pro-Israel, anti-Likud, absolutely anti-Netanyahu, and find that logically consistent and comfortable. And you don't have to invoke the word genocide. You don't have to. You can be mad at Likud and Israel and Netanyahu and reject them for what's going on in the West Bank alone, not even bringing Gaza into it.
You could. It's, you'll very quickly be questioned about, what about?
Yeah, what about? Exactly. So
but
sometimes the what about is good, and it's a good what about. Sometimes what about is just like too much.
Yeah.
And buzzwords, I said, well, I can't vote for you because AIPAC. Well, what does that mean?
Yes, that's
a slogan.
That's
a talking point. That's not policy. What do you want to do? What would you like to substitute? Again, that goes back to the uncommitted, protests of Harris. What exactly did you want from Harris? To let you speak? That's not happening.
Okay, yeah.
I would like to take over your speech and tell everybody what we think. Well, you'd like to do the same thing for the party. And other members of the party think, no, you're a minority faction and you don't get to do that.
I think that's fair enough. I mean, it's funny. It's when, as the controversy was unfolding, it's easy to get caught up in that too. But it's I think a misrepresentation of what you're asking. Well, I just want a chance to speak. Well, we love having people speak. What do you want to say? Oh, well, hold on a second. Wait. And so this is supposed to be part of our television show? Holy mackerel.
It's your conference, it's your stage, it's your microphone, but it's not up to you in terms of what we say. Well, actually, yeah, it is. And so we need to vet your speech.
Yeah. All right.
You can go back and say, look, I am no big Chuck Schumer fan.
Go ahead.
But when you say you're anti-Schumer, what do you want to replace him with? What is it exactly do you want him to do? Why are you mad at him?
Yes.
Because the minority votes in the Senate weren't enough to stop things? How is that Schumer's fault? You think a more skilled person in that seat could magically manufacture more votes?
No, I think.
Or persuade Republicans to vote with you? What do you expect them to do? Exactly.
Speak more like Ossoff, I guess, is probably what they would ask for.
Probably, and that's okay. And if that's all they're asking for, fine. I'm totally with you. Replace him. That is a very good, legitimate reason. Okay. Well, there you go, everybody. Start saying that. And the AIPAC stuff is getting, and it's getting outrageous too. And it's a weak point that's being exploited, I think, by maybe by the same people who attempt to exploit these fractures in previous presidential elections outside of the country. It's a pretty easy target, and getting people riled up about it and making AIPAC an easy slogan to rail against, to the extent they're now saying, well, we want to raise awareness of what they do and the positions they take and how cynically they approach things, and then so that everyone will stop taking their money. And then when people stop taking their money, they still say, hey, well, we're still going to publish that you take AIPAC money. Okay, no, that's not really a great... part of the problem is AIPAC lies about who takes their money, and AIPAC lies about who they're supporting. True, and also, but clandestinely support leftists because they think that they'll lose. I mean, AIPAC is garbage, but that's not the point. It's still a slogan if all you say is AIPAC without explaining why, what, where, and how. That's true, too. Yeah. We'll have to give people more time then to explain themselves when they say it. But yeah, I note for the record too that I think people have been kind of calling out that there's an AIPAC what claims to be an AIPAC tracking organization that I guess when they don't actually get the dirt on you because you don't take AIPAC money, they just say, well, they take other kinds of, That is so convoluted, I can't even pay attention and follow that. I just tune them out. It's not useful. It's not, but yeah, it ought to be called out when it happens. Like you can't, you can, but you should not be organizing around. It's like the scam packs, of AIPAC, partly funded by AIPAC that actually are trying to influence democratic elections. Yeah, right. It's not bad. Wonderful. But all of the bad stuff that they do, all of the reasons that you could be in disfavor of them, still don't excuse just using the word as a slogan. You got to explain yourself. Explain yourself. Yeah. Well, anyway, let's change subjects. Social media. Yes. New Quinnipiac poll out today. Pennsylvania 2026 gubernatorial election. Josh Shapiro 53, Stacey Garrity 40. Okay, Stacey Garrity. Some unknown also ran Palooka Mook, who's going to wind up losing to Shapiro, who's very popular, who's pro-Israel. Not hurting him there. Okay. Shapiro favorability 51-33 because the important thing is you govern and you keep the state functioning, and if a highway catches fire and bridges fall down, you rebuild them in 2 weeks. I mean, he's good. All right. As far as governance goes. Yeah, he rebuilt the governor's mansion. As far as, my favorite word, gubernatorial stuff goes. He's really good at it. Yes. All right. So, yeah, I don't think I ever heard the other name, quite honestly. Well, you don't need to. That's fine. Right, man. Don't have to. It's not hard to pronounce. If at the last minute I have to say something about something crazy that they did, we'll be all right. So, do you approve or disapprove of the way Josh Shapiro is handling the job as governor? Total 56-34, 93-2 with Democrats. Independents 54-32. That's pretty strong. Men 48-41, women 63-27, GOP 23-66. That gives you an idea of where the country's at. Pennsylvania, the quintessential quintessential swing state.
Yeah.
As Indies 54-32 for the Democrat.
Okay. Yeah, not bad. Men just very reluctant to approve, I guess, or disapprove for them just in the 40s and both.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
What's men's
John
problem
Fetterman.
with this?
Do you approve or disapprove of the way Fetterman is handling his job as U.S. Senator?
Oh, is he handling his job?
48-41 approve. How did he get there? Democrats 1969 and GOP 77-12. Indies totally split, 44-48.
Yeah, well, that'll tell you something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Would you like to see John Fetterman stay in the Democratic Party? Remember, this is Pennsylvania.
Stay in the Democratic Party? Yes.
Or leave the Democratic Party?
I see.
Total, stay 31, leave 52. Which is almost exactly what Democrats say, 32-57. GOP says 30-55. Independents, 33-46. Nobody wants him to stay in the Democratic Party, even though it's a bad decision. But hey, you're the voter. You get to decide. Except you don't get to decide this one. Fetterman gets to decide.
But there is something odd in addition to all this that he has done. I keep seeing it, but I have not read the story yet.
The John McCormick cross-funding agreement he has, you mean?
What is that? Have you read?
Not John McCormick, Dave McCormick.
The other McCormick. Yeah, John McCain. Dave McCormick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who's at 40-33?
Okay.
Compared to Fetterman's 48-41. You know, there's a
joint fundraising of some kind.
Yeah, so he's going to. I don't know what that is.
I don't know either. I don't understand how it works.
Fetterman's basically a jerk.
Guess so.
But he's our jerk for now.
Yeah.
Big tent. Suck it up.
It has to
Look
be.
the other
He's
way.
Gigantic. Yeah, I don't know.
Just don't count on his vote for anything.
I guess not. How much longer do we have with this guy?
I don't know. Yeah, the funny thing is Manchin was extraordinarily skilled. Cinema less so, but still pretty skilled at using that key swing vote to get stuff they wanted. Fetterman doesn't do that. He doesn't negotiate with his colleagues. He doesn't know what he wants.
Yeah, I have not.
He just
really
likes being a jerk.
Him do that.
Know? And that's a considered academic opinion.
All right. I mean, it's largely the most descriptive we've got of him. I mean, I haven't seen him holding out for anything. I don't know if he would win any such negotiation, but he's just sort of.
All the insiders say that's what's going on. He never approaches us about asking us for stuff.
Well,
by the way, ICE agents were filmed assaulting, handcuffing, and kidnapping a U.S. citizen in Passaic, New Jersey, while refusing to look at the ID. He repeatedly begged them to check. And so he's not dead, so it's not going to make this same news. But the whole idea that you shoot people in Texas and Maine and there's outrage, even Susan Collins is troubled. And so Tom Homan says, well, there's going to be a temporary pause while we consider it. And Trump goes on air and says, no, we're not.
It's not. We're going to be.
You got to do this. How else are you going to get law and order, in this country? Law and order is everything. I was elected to do law and order. You elected me to do this. You elected me to stop people and shoot them with death squads. That's what you elected me for. And by the way, only the Chinese object, and I'll talk about that tonight. There's just awful stuff going on, and that's because he knows he's losing, and he knows everybody hates him.
Yeah.
And he can't deal with it. His ego cannot deal with the fact that everybody hates him.
Yeah. Oh, and right. It also goes back.
Why do I say everybody hates him? Even the supporters hate him. They just like him because he's giving them what they want. But they don't,
But you're making
only the hardcore MAGA. That's only about 18% of the public really like this guy.
I'm not even sure I understand that. You got to send me a link to what's going on in Passaic. We should look. So it occurs to me that as you're telling me the story and he's begging them to look at the ID and they simply won't do it, I also am watching, various things fly by on social media, just Republicans renewing their screaming about like the Save America Act and how easy it is. All you got to do is show an ID.
Oh yeah, Reconciliation 4.0 and 5.0 and all this other. I don't understand what they even think.
I don't know. I don't know what they think the rules are on reconciliation anymore either. But while they're watching and making the same dumb statements, I don't know. So somebody came up with the latest one. You got to show an ID to get into Costco, which. No, not really. But again, that simple fallback, all you got to do is show ID. And I think you should probably consider that in light of other people begging the police to please look at their ID. And if we look at your ID, we're going to feel like we're not allowed to beat you. So put that away. We got to beat you. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to do. And to think you're going to go into the polls and say, well, all I got to do is show ID. Yeah, and then they kick the crap out of me and break my teeth and I can't vote. But I did have the ID.
Yeah.
I spent money on that.
That's what I got for today.
All right. Well, that's your last chance because unless you want to come back tomorrow. And probably not. I don't mind if you do. Certainly if something happens. Oh, I guess I'll leave the door open in case something really insane sneaks through tonight and they actually put it on the air and people worry about it.
Yeah.
But,
we'll see what he says,
right.
Whether it gets on the air, what he says in reaction to it.
If it's so bad that you have to come on and comment on it, we'll probably have been arrested by that point anyway, and we won't have a show.
Oh, here's a good one for you as I go out the door.
Okay.
This one is from Andrew Kaczynski, K-File.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So Senate candidate Mike Collins, and we're talking about Senate and one of the generic Mikes. Collins, I believe, is the Georgia Mike, as opposed to Mike Rogers, the Michigan Mike.
I think so. Okay.
Senate candidate Mike Collins' son-in-law featured in campaign photos, registered to vote at a Collins-owned property and appearing in his victory party, so he's definitely associated with Mike Collins, is a white nationalist influencer who has promoted Nazi imagery and called for clearing our land of other people.
Oh, yeah? So what is he, like policy director?
Yeah, he's probably, in line for director of D&I.
Yeah, why not? In case they don't get this one through. All right, so he's registered to vote at how many houses does Collins have? This is another thing about Republican candidates. They have 9 or 10.
I don't know. All I know is Ossoff outraised him 20-1.
Okay. I mean, that's good news. But, yeah, so, all right, he's a GOP Senate hopeful on the link there. Okay, I see one of those headlines here. Okay, well, son-in-law, huh? Is that right? Or there's a son-in-law involved. All right, GOP Senate candidate has close ties. Huh. Well, the son-in-laws are problems in this country.
Right. Centrist commentator Russell Drew notes, this cycle, Georgia is to Republicans what Michigan is to Democrats. But that's because governors don't want to be senators. Brian Kemp and Gretchen Whitmer just want nothing to do with this circus in Washington. I think he's right.
Yeah. It's a hard time to decide that you're willing to put up with that. And you can get caught in the next
and both of them would have been, in other words, very strong candidates who I think would probably easily have won.
Very likely so. Although I don't know, I'm wondering about pulling out campaign photos of Gretchen Whitmer hiding behind her portfolio while she was in the Oval Office.
Well, Michigan is a swing state. It's a centrist kind of state. So, she is who she is, and she represents a state. Here's one, California, not centrist. PPCI poll, pretty accurate. California governor 2026 between the Republican and the Democrat. Xavier Becerra, 61. Steve Hilton, 36. Do you remember all those hand-wringing, oh my gosh, the Democrats might be closed out of the general... No.
Well, that's why you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, jungle primaries are stupid, but this is what the reality is.
Yeah.
61-36, not close.
Yeah. What state was it that has jungle primary, but they put the top 4 in? Was it... Somebody did something like that, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting twist. It's getting to be like razor blades on the shavers. We're going to put 5. What? No, there's 7, top 7 finishers. It is a weird thing, but okay, good. So the real danger of if you ever have to worry about there being no Democrat in the race for governor of California, what would people do? I guess somebody could conduct a write-in campaign, I suppose. But it's enormously difficult to do that successfully. But imagine no Democrat on the ballot, and not sure how people stand for that or what they would do in a situation like that. All right, well, anyway, I guess Steve Hilton's still alive and running for office. I forgot. Once the primary was over, I stopped looking because that's the way California works.
Anyway, that's my rant for today. Sorry about the salty language, but
don't be sorry about it. I'm just sorry. I
just want you to know I'm over it.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. It was fun. I think everybody will, remember this as a collector's item of a show. I will extend no
a new Washington Post
Ipsos
poll just came out. Trump approval stuck in the 30s amid pessimism on Iran and the economy, polls find. Again, important context for tonight's speech. He doesn't give that speech if this weren't true.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, there's always a good reason to cheat in an election, I guess. But...
Strikingly, Trump has lost enthusiasm among many fellow Republicans.
That's true.
Senators, read the damn paper. A core source of his power for more than a decade, reduced enthusiasm among base supporters jeopardizes his party's hopes of retaining control of Congress in November's midterm election. Trump's inability to shake these negative perceptions of his presidency, which are based on fact, by the way, I would add. The reason that people have negative perceptions of his presidency is that he has a negative presidency and does negative things.
Yes. All right. Well,
37%, identical to what it was in February. Disapproval 61%. No change since the last time we looked. Beneath those overall numbers are signs Trump's base is weakening.
Mm-hmm.
A new low of 15% approves strongly. This is basically what we're talking about is the overall numbers haven't changed, but Republicans are moving from the strong approve to somewhat approve.
Okay.
By, 5-point shift.
Yeah, maybe because they're sick. It's true, right? And that's another thing, right? We usually don't poll or take into account whether or not people are going to be able to leave the bathroom long enough to vote.
Right. He's at 28%. He's at 26% with independents.
All right.
That's what matters. You guys got to show up. Anyway, that's a story, and I'll see you Monday.
Okay, very good. You took us all the way to the break. I'm going to play the music in a few seconds, and if there's a poll that comes out, while we're playing the music, you could shout.
Well,
I guess.
Things happen.
Or send it afterwards, right? I don't know what it is with people holding polls until 10 o'clock. That's amazing. I don't know. Are these West Coast pollsters? Wake up. Get up early. All right. We got a 1-minute break coming up. We'll be right back. I'll be right back. Greg goes on.
Tonight is a ASAF fundraiser, by the way. That's what the Trump speech is.
Okay. It's opposite. They're just going to tape the speech and say, you got to donate to stop this guy. It might just work, too. All right. We'll see you in a minute. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Greg has left the building, like Elvis, and but not the same way, thankfully. Here's a follow-up on, I don't know. I mean, I guess to gear up and make people more afraid of this stupid speech tonight. It's important, and we got to keep an eye on it. But it's the kind of thing that is driving the usual suspects, the news outlets, to cover the speech this way. What do I have here? Do I get this thing out of the way? From the Daily Beast, and as long as, I guess, since we've kind of ruined the show at this point in terms of censorship, so we'll just go ahead with it, and I'll just blame Greg for this one. Although they do censor the headline over at the Daily Beast. Trump's primetime speech has Republicans scared, and I guess I'll just read it this way, S-less. You know how what follows scared, that you would have to be scared out of their goddamn minds or something like that. No, scared shitless. But they use the asterisks on this, and it's important to say so. And also point this out because I'm looking at the URL. And they're afraid of offending the computers. The URL ends with, Trump's primetime speech has Republicans scared S-less, S-L-E-S-S, sless. No asterisks. I guess you can't do that. That'll mess with the URL, I think. But they won't type out shitless either. So there you have it. Anyway, Owen Palmer has done the work here. I mean, do we think they really are scared? Are they just saying so? Let's see what he has to say. It's not an overly long article. The prospect of an unpredictable Donald Trump making a live primetime address to the nation on Thursday night has many Republicans rattled, allegedly. The 80-year-old president has hyped the speech as the announcement of, quote, really big news although it is expected to be little more than a Trump rehashing years-old false claims about the 2020 election. But when a president does it from behind the presidential seal and in the Oval Office or wherever he's planning on doing it in prime time and demanding time from the networks and gets it, that means something. One former Trump administration official told Politico, there's a former official, told Politico that Republicans are not only concerned about the president moaning about Joe Biden's election victory 6 years ago while the country is at war, and millions of Americans are struggling with a cost of living crisis, which he thinks the word for it is made up. Affordability, all words are made up, but he keeps saying that. But also about him deciding to improvise, and that's always an issue. The people I talk to are scared, and here we get dashes rather than asterisks, are scared. Well, he's saying they're scared shitless. They're saying they're scared s dash 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 less. The official said it's not scared shitless about the text of what he's going to say. It's what does he add to the text, and that is his favorite hobby. But yeah, I'm not so sure it's that big of a worry, because probably the text is going to be just as bad as anything he would add. What he usually ends up adding is when he makes mistakes and then pretends that the mistakes are part of it. So I guess that's worrisome. Like what's his mistake going to be? And 2020, Sleepy Joe Biden did not win the election, and when they counted the votes, and he'll be squinting trying to read the teleprompter, and then he gives up and says, they said they were going to nuke Iran, and I just launched 100 nuclear missiles. That's a weird improvisation. That's not what this speech was about, but sometimes he goes way off on a tangent. I'd be worried if I had any sense of responsibility to the nation, but only the former officials have that. Trump's inner circle has been desperate for the president to focus on what they see as his achievements in improving the economy, which is also wrong, such as declining inflation. Trump has endured dire approval ratings on the economy during his second term with policies such as sweeping tariffs and the Iran conflict, exacerbating the financial hardships already facing many Americans. While the White House hasn't previewed Trump's speech, or they haven't shared it with anybody else, I guess is what they really mean, it will reportedly focus on voting machine security and alleged election interference by foreign countries. Steve Cortes, a former Trump advisor, said that while the president's base still believes there was a, quote, grave injustice somehow in the 2020 election, Trump would be wiser to discuss other issues ahead of the crucial midterm elections. I believe for the persuadable voters, the non-MAGA people, talking about an election from 6 years ago sounds like sour grapes, Cortes told Politico. Yeah, I can see that. There's also the issue of how many people will even pay attention to Trump's rant. Major broadcast networks, including CNN, Fox News, and ABC News, have not cleared their schedules to air it, and it's unclear whether the White House has even asked the networks to preempt their programming to broadcast it live. And it may be that they didn't. And that could be any number of things. One, they are dumb and they forget that you're supposed to do that. Or it may be that they really would prefer that some of the networks not air it so that they would be able to accuse them of being biased against Trump in their decision not to air it. And then they could attack them and threaten their broadcast licenses again. And by the way, it's easy for me to talk about this not, owning a broadcast license and not really working inside one of these networks. But I do want to point out how my thinking is that broadcast licenses are less necessary to reach major sectors of the public these days than ever before. I have to imagine that regardless of how disconnected I've become from live television, major network broadcast, that the vast majority of America is still pretty connected to it. But I think they're connected to it for entertainment purposes more than news gathering purposes. But still, yeah, the broadcast license affects all of it, to be sure. But I suppose that if you had a successful network television series franchise, that you could, if necessary, if the only other alternative is, well, everybody goes home, nobody gets paid for anything, we stop producing this money machine, you just move to streaming. It happens a lot. So, I'm not certain how easy that really is, but the possibility exists in ways that it never did before. People canceled in their shows for whatever reason, not the slang term canceled, but actually having your show canceled, move to streaming. It's no guarantee of success, but it's not like it used to be when they take away if they threatened your broadcast license, which they never did in the past. You have alternatives more so now than you ever did before. Anyway, back to what they're saying here. Is anybody else scared? They quote Caroline Leavitt here for some reason. I don't think she's going to pretend that she's scared, so we can just skip right over of that. The intent of the article, in reading the article, is to put out there that I know it may just be an act too, but Republicans are interested in throwing out a marker there, trying to distance themselves from whatever might happen tonight, and it's fairly wise of them to do so, even if they're lying. All right, what other things do we have to share here? Greg mentioned, and he mentioned the reconciliation package issue. I happen to have something from the Hill open about it because it showed up in email this morning. I thought I might put that on the record. GOP leaders face frustrations, time pressure on $95 billion, that's a lot of billions, reconciliation package. Emily Brooks and Sudiksha Kochi are on the byline here. And, I think we're on now Reconciliation 3.0, and I guess they make it work by, I guess technically the first one around might have been authorized by the budget adopted prior to the beginning of the current Congress. Then they adopted a new budget, authorized another reconciliation bill, and I think they've squeezed out now their third budget, and I guess that they're attempting to move reconciliation under the authorization of their second budget, this Congress's second budget, but for fiscal year beginning in October, which is pretty much at the end of this Congress. But looking forward, they do have, I think, 3 separate vehicles to move reconciliation bills under. But I'm also just thinking back to the old days when they used to say every time Republicans would threaten to use reconciliation, and the papers would say a rarely used arcane procedural maneuver, and I think we can stop saying that at this point, as this is their third time around in 2 years with this stuff. But anyway, what's actually happening here, House Republican leaders are facing pressure from the clock and their own members over this $95 billion reconciliation framework that they will attempt to advance out of the Budget Committee on Thursday, that's today, raising questions about whether the package will make it out of the House, let alone to President Trump's desk. The budget framework released Wednesday outlines $73 billion for defense, mostly throwing missiles into the ocean, and intelligence funding. But what's the point of intelligence funding when the DNI is going to be, what's his name? Clayton, if he sneaks by. And even if he doesn't, it's Bill Pulte in an acting capacity, as you know, and then they'll probably ignore the law about how long he can serve. I mean, I think Trump will be taking his cues from now on with acting positions, as he does with the War Powers Act. You just simply declare it to have started over again and give me another 120 days. Does that work? I don't know. Will courts be able to sort it out before Pulte does more damage? No. So let's do the damage, I guess, is the way they'll probably approach this. So keep an eye on that one. Anyway, budget framework released Wednesday outlines $73 billion for defense and intelligence funding, $12 billion for agriculture aid by the farmers, and $10 billion for a fund to encourage Trump-backed voting restrictions. That, of course, would be the Save America Act, and that's how I guess they're going to try to sneak it in as having the correct kind of fiscal impact to make it through the Byrd rule. Well, we're providing not authorizing the new regime of voter suppression, legally speaking. A statutory change isn't going to happen in this, but here is money to enforce the statutory change we're going to make later under a different bill. $10 billion for the Save America Act. That's how much does it cost to beat people up and not look at their IDs when they come to vote? And the answer is $10 billion. That is significantly scaled back from the sweeping bill, marrying a big boost in Pentagon funding with quote-unquote anti-fraud spending cuts that Gop members and leaders had originally envisioned. Trump has also originally sought much more for the military in the reconciliation package, $350 billion. Yeah, I was wondering what happened to that number. So how much do you need to conduct this war? $350 billion. Well, you're not getting that. How much? We'll take 95 or 73, I guess, and some of that is going to intelligence, too. So that's interesting. Dramatic reduction. I guess that must have shocked the hell out of some of the Republican members, $350 billion. Many members have been counting on an ambitious Reconciliation 3.0 package when they rallied to support a skinny Reconciliation 2.0 bill earlier this year that funded only immigration enforcement. Do you remember that one? They were anxious to make the most of their last remaining chance at pushing a GOP-only bill through Congress and snagging wins to take on the campaign trail before the midterm elections, like the swath of, quote, affordability measures pushed by the Republican Study Committee. But, of course, that's a made-up word, so what are you doing? The special reconciliation process bypasses, they're trying to tell you the process here, bypasses the 60-vote threshold on the Senate, meaning Republicans could pass it without Democratic support. And to top it off, the package includes no pay-fors or spending cuts for the $95 billion at all. Outraging fiscal hawks, but not enough for them to say no. Republican Representative Warren Davidson of Ohio predicted that the budget resolution would be DOA, dead on arrival, in the lower chamber. Everyone loves the DOA label. There is no will to spend less or honestly pay for massive spending, deficits, debt, and debasement all the way to the crash site. Nothing stops this train. Make a plan. Oh, dear. Davidson wrote on the social platform X, so I guess he's doing some prepper work and digging out a bunker for himself. Many of those fiscal hawks sit on the House Budget Committee, which will consider the bill Thursday. So we'll see whether they remain budget hawks or just cave in. Representative Chip Roy, everyone remembers him, from Texas, a member of the Budget Committee and policy chair of the House Freedom Caucus, told reporters Wednesday he's undecided, we'll see about that, on how he'll vote for the resolution. We're still having conversations among committee and non-committee staff. I think the stupidest thing to do, so look out for this one. I think the stupidest thing to do would be to try to jam it through committee when we get bigger problems on the House floor, and I think that might be the current state of affairs, Roy said. I think you might be right. While some of us are trying to work in good faith, I don't know about that, to figure out how to move the bill forward, we still have concerns and problems. It would be a mistake to move it onto the floor even if you can't get it through committee, which is unclear, he added. Roy told reporters Tuesday, before the budget resolution was released, that he's not, quote, one that wants to swallow lack of offsets, unquote. What a quote that was. Republican leadership is arguing the scaled-back bill is the result of political dynamics in the Senate and pressure to avoid a funding boost to the Pentagon as it faces depleted munitions amid the Iran war. As we engaged with the White House and Senate, it became clear that we would need to respond to their concerns and interests to have a pathway to law. This has resulted in a narrow, streamlined product that you see today, a senior House Republican leadership staffer told reporters Wednesday morning. They also say it's the only chance to enact incentives for proof of citizenship and voter ID restrictions in the vein of the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility. That's the Save America Act, demanded by Trump and the right-wing activist base through Congress. The Save America Act passed the House but is stalled in the Senate where it lacks the Democratic support needed to overcome a filibuster in the upper chamber. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has rejected calls to eliminate the filibuster as a way of passing the Save Act. Vice President Vance pushed that message in a closed-door meeting with House Republicans at the Capitol on Wednesday, urging the GOP to unify behind the reconciliation framework to accomplish the president's top legislative priority. It's an important priority, he says. We disagree. We'll skip the rest of his dumb quote. House Budget Committee Chair Jody Arrington of Texas, a fiscal hawk, who had for months been telling reporters he was working on a reconciliation bill that included many more spending reductions and, quote, anti-fraud measures that touched on health care and more, argued the obstruct at all costs politics of the Democrats necessitated treating Reconciliation 3.0 as a way to solve the crisis in defense funding. Arrington said he's thinking of the defense funding portion as the kind of supplemental funding request that has not traditionally been paid for in the past, and he did not believe Democrats would have approved the White House's separate $87 billion supplemental funding request sent to Capitol Hill last month. The immediate needs to replenish munitions and make sure we have a baseline readiness on the battlefield today, Arrington said, later adding, we do not believe the Democrats will work with us on a defense supplemental. But, by the way, that should be noted, defense and defense spending in general, defense supplementals also in particular, and defense authorization bills, like transportation authorization bills, used to be kind of a bipartisan lock, and Republican incompetence and war adventurism has changed that equation. Sorry. As for the lack of spending reductions, Arrington argued, the politics and the political landscape in the Senate make pay-fors challenging. He worried that if Republicans had opened up the ability in the framework for the Senate to tweak certain areas of government that they had hoped to address with anti-fraud measures, it would result in the Senate actually undoing some of the Medicaid reforms, which would be great, and other cuts that Republicans had passed in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, Reconciliation 1.0, last year. Arrington faced a failed vote in the House Budget Committee on the framework that became the One Big Beautiful Act, or the Two Big Beautiful Bidets Act, as we know it here, early last year, as he dealt with similar pressures from fiscal hawks on his panel over cuts before hashing out issues with members and getting it through on a second try. This time, though, Republicans do not have the luxury of time. The House has only a few legislative days before lawmakers leave Washington for a month-long August recess, and the closer Republicans get to the midterm elections, the less chance the package has of succeeding. If we don't open it up this week, I don't think it's going to happen, Arrington said. Time's running out, windows closing. That's true, and if Arrington is right, then they probably don't get it done, because I don't know if I see it happening this week. I mean, this week is over on Capitol Hill, so I don't know. The other thing I wanted to check back in on before wrapping up our discussion of it, Sue has sent us this information, listening along with us today. Thought you might be interested in the Canadian take on the speech tonight. Sorry, hey, you're probably right. Sue, are you Canadian, or are you just reading the Canadian news? I'm not sure. It's totally legit at this point to be turning to CBC to double check what you're getting out of the news media here. So yes, I would like to hear what the Canadians have to think about it. It says at least the headline is more accurate, so let's open it up. Oh, I already had opened it up. What is that accurate headline? Switch tabs, and I'll tell you. After 6 years, Trump brings his election obsession to prime time. That's true. It hasn't been primetime news since they stormed the Capitol on January 6th, way back when. And I have some more news for you on that one, too. I think we can probably fit it in. Oh, yeah, right. We have a third, our last segment to go yet. We're not even up to the third break. So what's up? After 6 years, Trump brings his election obsession to prime time. U.S. President, that's who Trump is. This is a Canadian paper. Expected to address nation, the other one, Thursday night. It's actually, oh, look at this. It's an Associated Press story. It just happens to be running in the CBC. So maybe that's the real twist there. It's not necessarily a Canadian perspective in the body of the story. It's an AP story. But the Canadians got to put their own headline on it, and that's the most important part. All right, well, so the AP have anything to add to what we understand from this, or I guess sometimes you get a bigger AP article and you can make various edits to it. It might be interesting to see what the Canadians did in terms of what got included from the AP and what didn't, although I haven't read the AP story elsewhere yet either, so we won't know. Maybe we'll just scan it for anything that jumps out. Trump has offered only vague details about the address. If you're wondering on the scheduling, it's 9 p.m. Eastern Time, telling one reporter he has really, really big news and our country has to shape up. Yeah, I think we heard that quote from yesterday, unless he's just saying shape up a lot now. That could easily be true. He added that it doesn't get bigger because without free and fair elections, you don't have a country, which I did see someone call that out, that going back to the if X, then you don't have a country, was the framing of his actual January 6th speech. You got to fight like hell or else you won't even have a country anymore. Despite Trump's comments, the White House on Wednesday night suggested the content of the speech could change. So there's that. In the weeks after he lost, well, you know the story. He disputes the election. In his second term, he's tried to use the levers of power to rewrite that well-settled history, which John Ossoff reminds you cannot get a Republican in a confirmation hearing to admit to. And an indication of how fealty to Trump's lies has become a litmus test for his administration, many of his nominees have steadfastly refused to directly answer the question of who won in 2020, preferring to tersely note that Biden became president. Jay Clayton, there you have it, Trump's nominee to become the next intelligence director, was the latest to repeat that formula in his confirmation hearing on Wednesday, and you heard that exchange with John Ossoff. And was it the Ossoff exchange? That wasn't even it. They chose to go with an exchange between Clayton and Mark Kelly. That's interesting. Let's see. So I guess Mark Kelly must have asked him who won the election. Jay Clayton says instead he had the most electoral votes. Clayton said of Biden, he was declared the winner. And who has the most electoral votes? Is it the person who wins or the person who loses? Asked Mark Kelly, Arizona Democrat. That's your characterization, Clayton responded. I'm not going to continue to do this. So he did indulge Mark Kelly for a while and then wouldn't do it with Ossoff. That's actually important context in all of this. Like if you see the Ossoff clip and you say, how could you not answer that question? I guess if it's the fifth time you've been asked the question in the same hearing, there's some validity to saying, you know what, I'm not going to do this with you and engage in the theater. He should have said, 4 senators have asked this question before you. I've given you my answer. And I guess all that's really happening here, this would be a valid point. What's really happening here is I've already been asked this question by 4 of you. I'm going to be asked by a 5th Democrat now so that you can send a clip. Like if you were interested in, oh my God, he won't answer the question, just send Senator Kelly's clip to the news media in Georgia. But what's really happening here, and this is a valid point, this is true, and he could have answered this way, I don't know, but what's really happening here is you want Georgians on the Georgia local news to see you asking these questions, even though I've already been asked this question 5 times by other senators, but it's of no use to you politically, the fact that other senators have asked this question. I mean, if the actual question and answer are what's valuable, as you argue is the case, then just take the clip from somebody else. But that's not what you're after. You're after you asking the question and not having it answered. That's about the only valid protest to being asked these questions that I can think of. Anyway, all right, I just thought I would throw that in and give some nuance to the question. I told you, though, that there was some other January 6th related stories to share with you. Talking Points memo, I think, has it exclusively. How do I know? Because their headline says exclusive. Trump DOJ's top, quote, Antifa prosecutor marched with crowd on January 6th. How do you like that? So I guess long story short on this one is, what does it mean to be the DOJ's top Antifa prosecutor? What this person really is doing, what they're really, the job they're occupying is the one of, the nonpartisan cover, which, I think is very thin, that exists for this thing inside the DOJ is you're the guy in charge. What we want to stop is political violence. All political violence. Wink, wink. Leftist political violence. They're not even really winking about that anymore. They're saying it outright. But then the job description is, well, everybody knows that political violence is bad, right? We wonder sometimes whether you do because, of course, you've engaged in that political violence. You can see what the conflict might be under normal circumstances, but these not being normal circumstances, we have only this. All right, well, the break is coming up, so we'll prepare for that. We'll read you the lead over the break music. The subheader of this Josh Kovensky entry for TPM, once again, it was not known publicly that a federal prosecutor marched to the Capitol on January 6th. I don't think that has come up. He was appointed this year to run a national task force targeting alleged left-wing political violence. That's the actual remit of the job. In nonpartisan terms, they say, oh, no, we're looking for political violence on either side. We only see it on the left side, but, if it becomes politically advantageous to prosecute someone on the right-wing side, I guess we'll consider doing it, unless they make a tremendous contribution to the president's, pockets, and then he'll pardon them, or at least tell us to drop the case, which we hope happens because we hate doing work. We'll be right back with this story. Hi, it's me, David. I mostly do the commercials around here, too. Have you ever thought you'd like to do a show like this one, but a lot shorter? Maybe without necessarily waking up early each day, or even, let's say, working at it each day? Well, now you can, sort of, and by now, I mean pretty much any time you want, because what I'm talking about is you recording a news story, sharing an essay, or otherwise contributing your thoughts on these crazy times with the rest of us, and with any digital recording device. Make the show your own, as I like to say. Send me a digital file of your recording, a link to any source material, and a note about how you'd like to be identified on the air at KagroX, that's KAGROX, at gmail.com, and I'll take it from there. Don't worry about those ums and ahs either. I sure don't, but I'll even do my best to edit your submission down into a nice-sounding dispatch from the field. So come on, everybody, make the show your own. Help me prove once and for all that I'm not just imagining this audience. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We got one more segment to fill you in. Of course, we have tomorrow to deal with other stories that won't make today's cut. And the cut's not, necessarily a well-informed cut. It's just happening. So, this is what I wanted to read you from TPM. It's an exclusive, they say. Trump DOJ's, top, quote, Antifa prosecutor marched with the crowd on January 6th. We didn't know that until just now. And now he holds a new job within the Department of Justice, running a national task force targeting alleged left-wing political violence. And again, that's what he'll be targeting. Though I'm sure when they talk about the job description in hearings on Capitol Hill, we mean, we're against any political violence, except, of course, that in which we engage ourselves. And that's the point of this article. On January 6th, 2021, of course, a man approached the Capitol who looked like many others in the crowd that day. White, sure, with a Trump 2020 hat on, yes, and a shirt marking his service to the country, allegedly, in Afghanistan. But this one was different. Brian W. Lynch was months into a new job as a federal prosecutor in Maryland when he attended the march on Capitol Hill, yet somehow Lynch's presence at the Capitol that fateful day has not been publicly reported until now, more than 5 years later. In the meantime, Lynch remained at DOJ and, under the second Trump administration, received a big promotion. He's now running a national task force to prosecute left-wing political violence. Never mind the right-wing stuff. A DOJ official confirmed to TPM that Lynch, quote, was present, but, they say, never entered the Capitol, left the grounds after a brief period, and did not commit and never was accused of any violation of law. Now, that's true. He was never accused of any violation of law, but then again, he was also never identified as having been at the Capitol until this week, so we don't know what happened and whether he was inside and whether he committed any violence. The investigation is just beginning, I guess. The insinuation, I'm sure, is that there's nothing tying him to such direct, blatant, and obvious destruction at the Capitol that he was singled out and prosecuted up to this point. But you should also remember that this was the biggest investigation the DOJ ever conducted, involved the most defendants, and the most tracking ever needed, and that they were nowhere near having tracked down everyone's movements, defined them all, decided which ones required prosecution, and moved ahead with it. They certainly picked out some of the things that they thought might be the most egregious. Might they have missed some? Might there have been, if they had completed this investigation, some evidence developed that Brian W. Lynch was in fact in the Capitol or engaged in some violence? I don't know. We can't tell. And now we'll never know, because presumably any evidence that the DOJ still has in their hands about who did what on January 6th and who went into the Capitol and who didn't, and who committed violent acts and who didn't, and who destroyed property and who didn't. Whose hands are they in? Well, they're in the hands of Brian W. Lynch. So I assume we're not going to find out any more information about what Brian W. Lynch actually did that day. And you're just going to have to live with it. Because what can I tell you? Something. They say they won the election. And now the evidence to establish the truth is in their hands. And you may never see it again. So a DOJ official says all this stuff, and we totally know that he didn't do those things, and we know this. We'll never be proven wrong because all the evidence that would establish that is under our control, and in particular under the control of the person you're asking about now. The prosecutor, Brian W. Lynch, did not return TPM's request for comment. Michael Romano, who was deputy chief in the DOJ's since disbanded Capitol Siege section, described January 6th to TPM as an act of massive political violence. Right, it is. He told TPM that he had never heard of anything like a federal prosecutor having been present at the march and continuing to work and be promoted years on. People were trying to stop the certification of the Electoral College vote on January 6th, he said. They were trying to stop the peaceful transfer of power between one presidential administration and the next. Yes, that is problematic. I agree. In the images, Lynch is wearing a Trump 2020 baseball hat. He has on a black shirt emblazoned with the map of Afghanistan that reads, quote, Afghanistan 2012 to 2013. Okay, I mean, that's about how long the tour would have lasted, but it's interesting that I mean, there are people who did 2 and 3 of them. Do they have all different shirts? I guess you can customize them and get the years that you were there. I guess the technology exists now. Anyway, a LinkedIn profile for Lynch that was removed after an earlier TPM story about him said that he deployed to Afghanistan in those years as part of a legal assistance program. Not, ground combat, but okay. One image that the DOJ confirmed to be of Lynch shows him in front of a green crane. The Romano told TPM that is definitely in the restricted area, and that the boundaries were streets around the Capitol. That's the boundary of the restricted area that day. Anyone that close to the building that they would be next to this crane was inside the restricted area. So I didn't go in the Capitol proper, like inside the building, unless, of course, you did, and you're hiding the evidence that you did, but we can't say for sure that you're doing that. Interesting, though, to march, obviously, in the Trump 2020 hat and then throw on the Afghanistan shirt. That's supposed to provide cover. Like, you can't question my patriotism. I was in Afghanistan in 2012 and 2013. Really? On the ground? Combat? No. I was there, though. I was there as part of a legal assistance program. Was it more dangerous than being a part of the legal assistance program here in the United States? Yes, it was. Was it did I mean for you to think that I was in combat those 2 years? Yeah, probably. But you didn't ask me, so I didn't say it on the record. In March, Lynch became co-director of Joint Task Force Vanguard, which DOJ has described, when they have to describe it to others, as central to its efforts to prosecute alleged left-wing political violence cases, including last month's indictment of 15 anti-ICE protesters in Minneapolis. That's interesting. My guess is that they actually say, if you ask them, you have a left-wing political violence squad, and they say yes, and you say, really? Only left-wing? Oh, no, it's any wing. But, as it turns out, because we're the experts here, I went looking for right-wing violence and I couldn't find any, but lots of left-wing violence, so that's what we're prosecuting. What can I tell you? Lynch reports, by the way, to Todd Blanche, who you may have heard of him, the Deputy Attorney General currently serving as acting Attorney General, while the Senate considers his nomination to the permanent position, which they really shouldn't be considering at all, but here we are. Lynch's presence at the march on January 6th puts him at the center of the highest profile example of political violence in the U.S. this century, and the first break in the country's streak of peaceful transfers of power since the country's founding. 250 years and all that. After we weren't transferring presidential power for the first decade or two of that time, but never mind all of that. I don't know what the number is anymore. After more than a month of trying to overturn his loss in the 2020 election through legal wrangling, and don't forget that he lost like every single one of 60-plus cases. They managed a tie in one of them, I think. Pressure on state legislatures and pressure on the courts after months of all of this stuff. Trump directed his supporters to march on Congress, set them on foot, as we like to say. As members voted to certify Joe Biden's victory, the march culminated, as you know, in hours of spectacular violence in which rioters broke down barricades, assaulted law enforcement officers, and I thought that was a crime, and stormed into the heart of the Capitol, forcing members of Congress to flee. There's no evidence that you know of that Lynch entered the Capitol building itself or that he engaged in violence. Of course, that evidence was never developed, and it won't ever be developed if it exists, but, what can I tell you? Can't prove a negative. Romano, the January 6th prosecutor, described the scale of the task facing DOJ as, quote, huge. We knew that there had been thousands of people who entered the Capitol and should not have, and who took part in disrupting the certification of the Electoral College that day, he said, and so we had the task of identifying as many of those people as possible. Romano added that charges largely depended upon the person's conduct that day. Limited investigative and prosecutorial resources went to those who committed acts of violence or who made it deeper into the Capitol. Those who strayed into restricted areas were often overlooked out of resource constraints. But yes, there was something you could have been charged with for putting yourself next to that green crane. We just didn't get around to charging you. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's not any kind of official declaration that you didn't commit a crime. You did. We just didn't accuse you of it because we never got to you. We took a lot of care and a lot of deliberation to really assess what people did and whether there was good evidence that they understood they were doing something wrong or something illegal before we charged, he said. The attack on Congress prompted widespread condemnation. Right. It led to Trump's second impeachment and resulted in the largest investigation in the DOJ's history. So large that they, of course, ended up having to take a miss on finding out that one of their own employees was there. And I wonder, too, whether had they pressed that case, whether the Republicans would have pointed at that and said, that's one of we told you that the FBI, that Biden and the Biden's FBI were there as agents provocateur or agents provocateurs, depending on how you would pluralize that. And so there you go. And, of course, it wasn't Biden's DOJ yet, or FBI for that matter, and he's not an FBI employee, but I'm sure they would point at that and say, I don't care whether you think that makes any sense. The point is I said something, something Biden, something, something undercover and secret and deep state, and you believed it. Several people that TPM spoke with expressed disbelief that Lynch was not identified during the January 6th investigation. The DOJ assigned hundreds of prosecutors and FBI agents from across the country to pore through footage and identify the rioters. A small army of online sleuths dedicated their lives to tracking down the identities of the people who breached the Capitol that day. More than 1,500 people were arrested in the course of the probe. Several law enforcement officials and military personnel were identified and prosecuted over their involvement. The FBI said in 2023 that it revoked the security clearances of 3 agents in retaliation to the attack. Through all of that, Lynch does not appear to have been identified. In his final report, Special Counsel Jack Smith described Trump's coup attempt as an effort, quote, to defeat a federal government function foundational to the United States' democratic process. After Trump won the 2024 election, he pardoned nearly all the rioters and commuted the sentences of a small few. When the Capitol insurrection took place, Lynch was serving as an assistant U.S. attorney in the District of Maryland. He had moved there in November of 2020 after spending years as a state prosecutor in Cleveland and before then in Ohio's Wayne County. In Maryland, Lynch prosecuted violent crime, weapons, and drug cases, standard stuff. He was 3 months into his tenure as a federal prosecutor when he appeared in a Trump 2020 hat among the crowd on January 6th. And really, appearing in a Trump 2020 hat probably would have been problematic enough. Doing it on January 6th? Well, never mind. TPM reviewed a video of people marching down Pennsylvania Avenue on January 6th. It briefly shows a man resembling Lynch. Several former colleagues of Lynch's told TPM that they recognized him as the man in screenshots of the video that TPM shared with them. By 2022, Lynch had changed offices to DOJ headquarters for a position in what's now known as the Violent Crime and Racketeering section. There, he took charge of organized crime cases in Ohio and Minnesota, where he lived for a time, and became a presence in the criminal division of the U.S. Attorney's Office. TPM first reported last month that the DOJ created Joint Task Force Vanguard to pursue political violence cases across the country. That, a DOJ official told TPM, means implementing National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, issued after the killing of Charlie Kirk. NSPM 7 directs federal law enforcement to treat, quote, anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, and anti-Christianity as indicators of political violence. Again, anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity equal political violence in their view. And by the way, there's no way to be more anti-capital than attacking the Capitol. But of course, they mean anti-capitalism, the economic system, versus anti-capitalism, attacking Washington, D.C., or anti-capitalism, attacking the Capitol building in particular. But yeah, it's interesting, and if the shoe were somehow on the other foot and Trump DOJ was looking to prosecute a Democrat who had been there that day or who protested near the Capitol, they would have said that's anti-capitalism. They would just purposely misunderstand that and misinterpret it that way. But anyway, there's other games afoot here. Lynch appeared at a press conference in Minneapolis last month announcing the new conspiracy indictment brought against 15 anti-ICE protesters who took part in demonstrations against the Trump administration's surge of federal immigration enforcement into the city. The indictment dubbed the group, quote, Antifa. Though he did not speak there, he was quoted in a DOJ press release saying that Vanguard's purpose is, quote, to counter groups that use violence and the threat of violence to achieve political ends, as he had been filmed doing on January 6, 2021, of course. Acts of political violence are priority matters for federal law enforcement. I guess they were. Covering them up is one, too, I guess, when you do it. And will be zealously investigated and prosecuted, he said, unless, of course, they implicate me, in which case they will be memory hold, and no one will ever do anything. And it's, like I said, there's no way to be more anti-capital than attacking the Capitol. That's what he did. He was in the restricted area, could have been prosecuted for that violation alone. We'll never know, I'm sure, because they're in charge of interpreting the evidence that they have in their hands. And what if they lose it? And it falls into the shredder if there was evidence that he had, in fact, entered the Capitol building. We'll never know. I guess that's fair. Thank God the law is being faithfully executed. All right. Well, what can I tell you? You can't impeach somebody for not, from the presidency for not upholding the oath of office and faithfully executing the laws of the United States. I think, right? I don't know. I've never seen it done before. Anyhow, other things that I can share with you before we wrap up for today. There's still a little bit of time left. How about this one? There's two Secret Service stories in the news. The one that made the rounds yesterday, weird and embarrassing for J.D. Vance. I'm not certain how this came to pass, but apparently the word is that the Secret Service is getting fed up with being asked to do weird things in service of J.D. Vance and his family. The big headline bit here being, here's the headline from MS Now. Vance's security detail, quote, fed up with hastily arranged personal and family travel requests from the Vance family. Fed up, not effed up, like F-ED, but F-E-D, fed up. Okay, got it? It's also a little bit effed up. Secret Service sources said the Vance family's asks included getting their young son to a golf lesson on a military helicopter. That does sound unusual. There's not even enough room, really, to play golf in a military helicopter, but that's where they're having the lesson, apparently. No, he was on his way elsewhere, and I don't know what the situation is. Where is this golf lesson? Like, Delaware, or what's happening? Are you talking about you're late for the golf lesson and you're afraid you won't make it through traffic in time, so you'll take the helicopter? I'm a little bit at a loss, and I don't think this article explains exactly why they thought this was going to be a good idea, but it's out there. Carol Leonig and Vaughn Hilliard wrote the piece. It's a longer recounting of weird requests being made and just a strange situation. They're just typically not used to doing this for a presidential or vice presidential family. It's rare that, there are young kids and young families involved in those jobs. They point that out. But on Thursday last week, Secret Service agents groused among themselves as they prepared to deliver another perk to Vice President J.D. Vance's family. Join a military helicopter crew to fly his young son to a golf lesson. The planned trip on Marine 2, the call sign for the U.S. Marine helicopter that carries the Vice President, was canceled at the last minute due to severe thunderstorms, so it didn't actually happen. And high winds in the Washington, D.C. area that day, according to two people with knowledge of the flight plans. Vance planned to travel with his son on the flight to Joint Base Andrews, which includes a secure, world-class golf center. Did you know that? According to two other administration officials with knowledge of his schedule. So that's the answer to that. Where does J.D. Vance's son take golf lessons? On Joint Base Andrews. Why is that? Secure. Makes a certain amount of sense. But anyway, at least now I understand where they thought they were going to land the damn thing. Like if it was a local golf course, really? You're just going to land the Marine 2 in the middle of that and hope it doesn't disrupt anything? I guess you can get away with it at a joint base. But the Secret Service staff's complaints about a planned chopper ride for an elementary school student reflects a building morale problem inside the team of agents assigned to shield Vance and his young family, according to two people and another person familiar with the agent's frustration. Agents have shared concerns internally about Vance and his office pressing them for trips and assignment that some agents consider an inappropriate or even unprecedented use of government resources compared to prior vice presidents, they said. The agents pulled in to protect Vance and his family have also become fed up with the last-minute travel demands that Vance and his wife, Second Lady Usha Vance, frequently place on the security team, according to the two people, and an additional source with knowledge of their travel who spoke on condition of anonymity. You know why? Fear of reprisals. The Vances are the first family to reside at the Naval Observatory with young children since former Vice President Al Gore and his family more than 25 years ago. There is no formal Secret Service policy prohibiting the use of government helicopters for transporting a vice president's child to a local event, but former and current Secret Service supervisors agreed the request for a chopper for this purpose has no precedent. They told MS Now that prior vice presidents eschewed using such expensive government perks for the convenience of their children's schedule, and agents typically drove children locally in sports utility vehicles. The vice president's office provided the following statement in response to MS Now's questions. The Vances are grateful to the men and women of the Secret Service, what it's going to be. And they have so much work and yada, yada. Thank you for your service. I guess the bigger question for me right now is what maps will tell me about the distance from the Naval Observatory in D.C. Go ahead and search that for me. Locate it. That's up in northwest D.C. And if you want to get directions from there to Joint Base Andrews, that's in Maryland. And it's not a huge distance, but it's not an easy distance to cover. There are, by the way, closer golf courses, I guess. But I understand the need for security. The drive there, and I presume you could make it happen faster in a Secret Service escorted, sirens blaring kind of a way. But the normal person's route there is about 42 minutes to get to Joint Base Andrews. I'm not certain where exactly the golf course is at that. Oh, there it is. The course is at St. Andrews. So I guess that the course is at Andrews, not St. Andrews. That's Scotland, but the course is at Andrews Golf Course. Yeah, and that's where we're going here. So that's kind of where the pin dropped as it happens anyway. So the computer knew what we were going to do. So 45 minutes for a normal drive. I guess with the sirens on, you could probably cut that down to 35 minutes or so. But I wonder how long the helicopter ride is, because it's less, I assume, but there's not a whole lot of time saved, I guess. I don't know. They might have just said maybe escort him to a closer golf course, but that's where they signed him up. Anyhow, I just thought that was interesting. There's a lot of interesting detail in the article, and you're invited, of course, to read it. We'll give you the link to it as well, that describes or uses the technical terminology, I guess, that are involved in this kind of the Secret Service protection and making these last-minute adjustments. They have lingo here somewhere, and maybe if I skip down, we can find it somewhere. But basically, they're when they're asked to make these last-minute changes, they are OTR, I guess. Is that off the record, these changes? But they have all kinds of Secret Service lingo for it that might be of some interest. I guess I'll throw this in there because we're running out of time, and I don't want to go looking for all the terminology, but it's of interest, and you should review it. There's another Secret Service arrangement or issue in the news, and now I'm not seeing it happen. I can't find it as quickly as I thought, but it had to do with January 6th and the Secret Service all rolled up into one. There we are. NPR had the story the other day, and let me just quickly give you some sense of what's going on there before we have to make our exit. Secret Service erased texts from a 2-day period that just happened to span the January 6th attack. Why, Watchdog now tells us. Claudia Grisales has reported on this one for Morning Edition, the program on NPR. A watchdog says the U.S. Secret Service deleted many of the text messages sent during a 2-day period surrounding the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Like, if you were wondering, what were they saying the president at that time, Donald Trump, was doing, saying, or trying to do? I don't know. We no longer have records of that. The Inspector General for the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees the agency, told Congress the messages were deleted when? Well, after his office asked for them, which is problematic. The discovery was made as part of the Watchdog's investigation into the deadly siege. Of course, this is I guess, an older article about it, because this is now referring to the siege having been last year. I'm not certain why this was recirculated most recently, but maybe it had something to do with the Secret Service being in the news for the Vance thing. I don't see the connection there except just Secret Service, but there you have it. So they're not always, I guess, frustrated and willing to speak up about frustration they have with Republicans. Sometimes they just do cover-ups. The discovery was made as part of the investigation into what they call the deadly siege last year. See, this is a 2022 article, and will likely play into the probe being led by the House Select Committee investigating the attack. The news was first reported in The Intercept, and I guess I forgot it along the way and was willing to include it in my Instapaper set-asides because I thought it was news. That is to say, new news, but I guess it's not. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know. That occupied my mind that I had that sitting there. I just hadn't checked the date at the time. So, all right, time for us to start wrapping up. And I guess because that is not new news, we could try to scan the MS Now stuff for what the Secret Service lingo is here. They do mention what Vance's code name is. You know how they always try to refer to people. I don't really know. Once it gets out, don't you think they really need to change the code names? But his code name is Bobcat. Bobcat because apparently his alleged connections to Ohio, if you believe that they're really true. Who knows with this guy? No one really knows his background. After all, he's changed his name 5 times. And they give out Bobcat challenge coins to each other. That's how frustrated they are about this. They go and spend their own money and their own time making up Bobcat OTR Survivors Club, featuring an image of a bobcat's head. Of course, this having to do with the Ohio University Bobcats. And I don't know. Anyway, I'm skipping around looking for this stuff to see if there's a place where they explain the OTR things here. The detail is tired of them not giving notice on things and making everything an OTR. And changing the schedule on everybody. And detailing exactly why that's difficult for Secret Service. You got to work nights, weekends, and odd hours anyway. But when there's a protectee that constantly changes plans, it messes with your schedules too and ruins your ability to regulate your own life. That's the job. But, you know, other vice presidential families, they note, have gone out of their way to plan ahead when they want to do things that are out of the ordinary, and instead turning them, you know, a very weird assignment turns into OTR when you don't bother telling the Secret Service ahead of time, hey, yeah, we signed them up for golf lessons an hour away.
Radio.com. You have been listening to Kagro in the morning with David Waldman.
You know, like presumably there's more than one lesson, right? You're going to have to be doing this a lot. Do we tell you? No, apparently not. All right. Who tells you what's going on in the world? Well, Justice Putnam does. That's his job to do next on the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, following us right here, right now on Netroots Radio. Please do tune in. We will see you tomorrow.